Today I F up by using a ladies' room at my workplace. So this just happened on Friday, and I am totally confused by the whole situation. Just for some background information, I work with around 40 people in my unit, and about 200 in the whole facility. The facility has 5 floors. Each floor has a ladies' room with 3 stalls, a men's room with 2 stalls and a urinal, and 2 handicap-accessible, family or gender-neutral restrooms. Each is a large room with grab bars and a changing table. Most employees on my floor use the standard restrooms. The handicapped ones are used mostly as overflow or when the lunchtime workout folks need to change. However, they are there and can be used by anyone. Also, our lobby has 2 additional HC-neutral family restrooms. I needed to use the ladies' room. It happened to be a busy time, and the 2 end stalls were both in use, so I used the middle stall. While I was doing my business, the 2 end stalls opened up. Another employee came in, and I heard a muffled, "Really?" and they left the restroom. I finished my business. I wasn't in there very long at all, washed my hands and exited, only to be almost knocked off my feet by someone rushing in. Okay, well, emergencies happen. I headed back to my desk and thought nothing of it. A few minutes later, I was accosted by a fellow employee. I was told that I was rude and impolite for using the center stall and almost caused her to have an embarrassing accident due to the length of my stay in the stall. She then huffed off without even giving me a chance to reply to her. I am totally confused. Either I have reached middle age without realizing some critical part of ladies' room etiquette, or my coworker is truly insane for her insistence that no 2 people can be in adjoining stalls in the ladies' room. I've been at this workplace for 15 plus years. Coworkers have been there even longer, and I have never encountered this before. Not to mention the fact that the 2 HC rooms were both available. She was in no way denied the use of restroom facilities. I did give our boss a heads up, and my shop steward as well. We're a union, and they handle workplace disputes, just in case a coworker decides to escalate, but I am truly at a loss. My work bestie is also confused. I haven't really discussed it with anyone else other than my spouse, who thinks a coworker is off her rocker, but admits he's a guy and doesn't know the finer points of ladies' room etiquette. AITA here, comments. Strawberry milkshake 7. So, she wasn't handicapped, right? She didn't need any accommodations. I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. OP, as far as I know, she has no accommodations. The ladies' room doesn't have a HC stall anyway. That's why we have 2 larger, separate HC restrooms. I've never had this issue before in over 15 years. I can't recall if I was ever in the ladies with this employee before, but in 15 years, I must have peed next to her at some point. Judgment. NTA. Quick update 12/22. I heard from my union rep, and my hearing with the EEO officer is scheduled for 1/3. See previous post, but TLDR. I was confronted by a coworker for preventing her from using the ladies' room by having the audacity to use the middle stall of 3, when 2 stalls and other restrooms were available for her use. I found out today that, rather than going to our boss or even our union, she went right to our EEO compliance office and filed a complaint that her rights are being violated by being denied the use of the restroom. Of course, all this has to happen right before the holidays, so nothing is going to happen until after the new year. I have no idea what the actual complaint says, or if anyone else is listed in the complaint. The union representative has contacted the office and requested more information and an interview where I can provide my side of the story. A coworker was already interviewed as part of the complaint process. Based on those interviews, the office can either decline to pursue the issue further due to a lack of merit, investigate further, issue a decision, or send it to a higher authority. God. The feds? I have no idea how this works, but I'm about to get a crash course, I guess. Needless to say, my head is spinning, and I'm not really happy to have this hanging over me through the holidays. I can't imagine that this will get past the interview stage, but anything can happen and sometimes does. In the meantime, I have to keep working with this woman daily. I've started using one of the HC family restrooms to avoid any further potential incidents. The office in general has been suspiciously quiet on this, so either a coworker is keeping her trap shut, I know I am, or the gossip train only stops when I'm around. We'll see what fresh hell the new year brings. Comments. Shadow tears. I mean, this is a layup. I walked into the middle bathroom stall and used it. I washed my hands and left. That's the statement you make. And if you get any trouble for this, any lawyer would come running to sue the SHD out of this company. If this story is true as you say it, what a sad person your coworkers are, and using the bathroom is the least of that person's troubles. Sheesh. OP. I'm really confused, since we've worked together for 15 years with no issues. A fake, she's never made a complaint before. You know how office gossip is. No one's supposed to talk about it, but everyone does, so I probably would have heard if this was an ongoing issue. But who knows? We don't have traditional HR since we're unions. The union handles most workplace disputes that aren't EO, AITA, or things of that nature. HR just does hirings, firings, and nagging us about United Way contributions. Charlotte Cassup is the middle stall where she keeps her drug stash in a Ziploc bag floating in the toilet tank. OP Lord, I never even thought about that. I sincerely hope not. She's in her 50s at least. Although strange things have happened. Update. Quick TLDR. A coworker accused me of preventing her from using the ladies' room, even though 2 stalls were open, and decided to file an EEO complaint against me. My coworker is getting the nickname Penelope because I'm tired of typing. My EEO hearing was this past Wednesday. My union rep and I prepped on Tuesday. Happy New Year to us. His advice was basically to stick to the facts and answer only the question being asked. He said he was going to have some supporting documentation, but not to worry about it, so I tried not to. So on Wednesday, we go to the hearing. It's not quite as formal as court or a deposition. I wasn't sworn in, but the mood was definitely serious. The first question asked was, "How long have you been Penelope's supervisor?" I was surprised because I'm not a supervisor, but I stuck to the plan and just answered the question. I'm not her supervisor. Well, how long have you been a supervisor in X unit? I'm not a supervisor at all. At this point, my rep cut in and gave the hearing officer a copy of my job specs, which include my title and responsibilities and clearly state that it is not a supervisory position. So the gist of it is that Penelope made the complaint that I denied her access to the restroom in a timely fashion, and never disawed the EEO office of the notion that I was her supervisor. I just said that I was in the ladies' room. There were 2 open stalls, someone came in and went out quickly, and then as I exited the room, someone rushed past me. I never saw them and didn't know it was Penelope until she confronted me later. And here's where my union rep earns rock star status. He brought copies of the floor plan clearly showing that there are accessible restrooms directly next to the ladies' room. And he got security to give him a copy of the security video of the hallway for the 15 minutes leading up to the incident. Other non-involved parties had their faces scrambled. But it's clear that I enter the restroom, 2 people exit, Penelope enters and leaves quickly. Then I leave shortly thereafter. The whole time I was in the restroom was a little over 2 minutes. The EEO officer was provided with a thumb drive with the files. The EEO officer said he will release his findings in 2 weeks. He was pretty stone-faced, but I get the feeling he was really thrown off by my not being Penelope's supervisor and by the timeline of events. Apparently, it's a violation of federal law to deny someone the use of the restroom. So this could have been pretty serious if I had any authority over her. I don't. We even have the same title, and she has seniority. So that's where we are. Hopefully, I will have a positive update once the EEO officer releases his findings in a couple of weeks. Comments. Streetheller 7596. I suspect the only reason it has is that Penelope managed to give the impression that OP was her supervisor. She would have been laughed out, and no hearing was scheduled otherwise. It's been pretty clear from the start that she had to make something up to be taken seriously. The facts leave everyone mystified. The bizarre part is that she apparently thought she could get away with this. The company will have no choice but to fire Penelope for doing this. It would be a textbook harassment case that OP would win if they didn't. OP, she won't be fired. We're a union shop. You'd basically have to attack the CEO to be fired, and probably not even then. An EEO complaint also carries protections with it, including anti-whistleblower and anti-retaliation. Streetheller 7596. So, there's literally nothing that stops someone like Penelope from pausing this process. She could file 1,000 complaints and tie the entire factory production schedule up for weeks if so. OP, well, we're an office, not production. There's no production at our facility, thank goodness. I don't think she would get away with it forever. A fake? This is her first time making an EEO complaint. She's well liked in the unit, so I really don't think she's had other altercations with anyone. The union handles most concerns between employees and anything between employees and management. I doubt they would continue to entertain repeated, unfounded complaints from the same person. But I don't know that they've ever dealt with a situation like that before. Honestly, we're a pretty easygoing unit and have few issues. Most of us have worked together for at least 10 years, so most interpersonal issues have been worked out. Usually it's silly stuff like someone leaving their mug in the sink or microwaving fish. Better turnover 2783. The videotape. Proof of the lies or her filing false charges. I love it. So now she will probably have something put in her file instead of you. For the company, the facts are clear. Coupled with that, she didn't even approach a person in a supervisory position to rectify the supposed problem and smooth it over and just went nuclear, which is looking really bad for her. I hope she gets moved to a different group and punished for her antics. OP. I'm still shocked he got the security video. I think that's the nail in the coffin for her complaint. Well, that and the floor plan clearly show the accessible rooms right next to the restrooms. She's unlikely to be moved. We're pretty specialized, and there's really no place else for her to go within our organization. Any sort of probation is also unlikely due to the EEO complaint, which carries protections against retaliation. She'll probably get a lecture from the EO officer about what actually constitutes an EEO complaint and wasting resources. Final update. AITA for using the wrong stall in the ladies' room. Hopefully, this will be my final update. Last time we left off, the EEO hearing officer said that they would have a decision in 2 weeks. That got extended a bit because they conducted more interviews, my and Penelope's direct supervisor, and another more in-depth interview with Penelope. I was not present for these interviews, so the information I have is second-hand or third-hand. The supervisor was interviewed, and my and Penelope's personnel files were requested, so the EEO officer could review any documentation pertaining to restroom issues. Did she request an accommodation? Were there any prior restroom-related incidents, etc.? I don't have a whole lot of intel on the specifics of this interview, since the supervisor didn't have a union representative present, and it dealt mostly with confidential issues. I know my personnel file is pretty unremarkable. I've never been written up or had any sort of disciplinary action, and I have had no altercations with other coworkers. Then Penelope was re-interviewed, as her first interview was just a "on X date, Y thing happened" statement. Penelope had union representation, a different rep than mine, not a lawyer, so I do know a little bit more about her interview. She was asked again what happened, and given the opportunity to go more in depth into the specifics of the incident. She refused to say anything more than "Broad Elephant denied me the use of the restroom." So she was shown the security footage that my rep had provided. And that's when the truth came out. For anyone who guessed that Penelope has ashy bladder, or something along those lines, 10 points to Ravenclaw for you. Apparently Penelope has been trying to get an accommodation for her shy bladder issues for several years. Now news to me, as there was never a hint of anything from the gossip. The accommodation that she has repeatedly asked for is that the middle stall in the ladies' room be placed permanently as out of order, even though it is perfectly functional, to prevent anyone from using it while she is in the restroom. Her requests have been denied because 1. Reducing the capacity of the ladies' room to accommodate one employee isn't going to happen, and 2. There are accessible restrooms available to anyone who needs them for any reason. Penelope has categorically refused to use the accessible restrooms since she's not disabled her words, despite the fact that those facilities are also designated as family restrooms and gender neutral. Her other requests were a lock on the exterior door of the ladies' room that she can use to ensure privacy, or several designated times throughout the day when she would be permitted sole access to the ladies' room, a little potty on that last one. So that day, when Penelope entered the ladies' room and saw just the middle stall in use, she went off the rails a bit. It wasn't anything against me personally, just her frustration with the situation and her perception of the lack of response and action from management. All her requests were denied as unreasonable, and she was again told to use the accessible restrooms anywhere in the building. Management was directed to remind employees that they have the right to use the restroom when necessary, and that accessible restrooms are available to anyone for any need, and they did. We all got an actual paper memo. I can't remember the last time that happened. Probably other things happened at the management level, but I'm not privy to that. The EEO complaint was dismissed, and Penelope was told that any similar complaint to our EEO office would be dismissed immediately. Now, that doesn't keep her from trying another way, but hopefully if she does, it won't involve me. There are no further actions against me or Penelope. Neither of us is getting fired, suspended, moved, or even written up for this. I'm not counterfiling because I want this to be over with. It was never really about me personally anyway, and a counterclaim would be dismissed. A coworker tried to get me in trouble, and I bitched about it online, which isn't really grounds for a counterclaim. We've had some brief work-related interactions, and while awkward, nothing was said or even hinted at. So I think on a professional level, Penelope and I will be okay. The office rumor mill continues to be silent on this. My day-to-day in the office hasn't changed, and I'm back to peeing freely in the ladies' room. While I don't fully understand, I do have sympathy for her and other folks who have bladder shyness or other bathroom privacy issues. It must be terrible to have to go, but your brain and body won't let you. And that's it. Hopefully, this is the end of all of this. I've enjoyed the comments and PMs. You folks can be very insightful, which was my main reason for posting in the first place. May your stalls be clean and stocked with good TP. Comments. Enough fly 2765. But you had to go through all that drama because she couldn't use the family, disabled, or neutral bathroom. And no, sorry for causing you trouble. She is ta. At least she was caught in a big mess of lies out of order. Thanks for that. And I could have used the alternative after all. Molda Panini. You should only use middle stalls from now on. Just because. Thank you for watching the video.